Deadlock has 3 powerful items in the item shop that help you to make more money. Cultist Sacrifice, which allows you to sacrifice an NPC for bonus souls. Trophy Collector, which gives you a bunch of extra souls for killing enemies. And then the Golden Goose Egg, which passively builds up net worth over the course of a match. All 3 of these can be amazing in the right situation. But that leaves one question on the table. Which of these makes the most money? How can I maximize the profit that I make on my character using these items? Well, that's what we're going to answer in today's video. So, how are we going to determine how much money each of these items are able to make, and which one makes the most money? It's pretty straightforward, actually. We just have to calculate how many souls per minute each of these items provides. And the Golden Goose Egg is definitely the most straightforward, because it literally just tells us on the label. We get 90 souls per minute as this item ramps up over the course of a match, which is very nice, but the other 2 are a little bit more complicated, especially Cultist Sacrifice. So this item is interesting because it allows you to target an enemy NPC and consume it for 180% bonus souls, which is a lot of extra money, but the souls you get vary depending on the minion that you eat. If you come over here and consume a tier 2 denizen, that's gonna give us 144 bonus souls, as you see there. If I spawn the camp again and I just eat this little guy, I think I got about 86 extra souls because he's worth significantly less. And then the big head honcho over here, the tier 3, it's going to give me about 388 souls in there. But this is also a little bit more variable than it seems on the surface, because these denizens will ramp up in the amount of money that they gain over the course of a match. So I've been in the sandbox here testing things for about 18 minutes, and that's why the tier 3 denizen gave me about 388 extra souls from Cultist Sacrifice. But if I go ahead and reset the sandbox here and then activate Cultist Sacrifice, I only get about 325 souls from this denizen here. Now, if you're curious, you can actually go to the Deadlock wiki and use this handy little slider here on the denizen article, and you can actually see how much each of these large denizens are going to be worth at various times throughout the match. And then you can just simply multiply that by 180%, and you'll be able to get the value of Cultist Sacrifice at any given point in a match. But then to calculate the souls per minute, we have to factor in the cooldown of Cultist Sacrifice, which is 270 seconds, or about 4.5 minutes. And so if we do a little bit of math shenanigans, at around 15 minutes into the match, which is a good midway point for most matches last around 30 minutes or so, we get about 84 souls per minute from Cultist Sacrifice, and that is assuming that you use it immediately as it comes off cooldown on strictly tier 3 minions. So your actual souls per minute will likely be lower from the Cultist Sacrifice because it takes some time to get over to the tier 3 minion. You won't always be able to activate this buff right away. But at the very least, 84 souls per minute is pretty similar to the 90 that we're able to get from Golden Goose Egg, so that's not terrible, but of course Cultist Sacrifice is 4 times the price of Golden Goose Egg, so that definitely hurts this item's ability to make money. But now we get to talk about Trophy Collector, and this item is kind of busted if you want to make money. So this item allows you to get up to 16 stacks of a buff that grants you 18 souls per minute, capping you out at about 288 souls per minute if you're at max stacks, which is absurd. That is so much higher than Golden Goose Egg and Cultist Sacrifice. The only downside, of course, is that it takes a while to build up these stacks. But even midway through Trophy Collector, if you only have half stacks, 8 stacks, you're still getting 144 souls per minute, which is by far the clear winner, again, compared to these other 2 items. And at a quarter stacks, you're looking at about 72 souls per minute, which is still nothing to turn your nose up at, although it is officially lower than Golden Goose Egg and Cultist Sacrifice. But of course, we aren't just getting these souls in a vacuum. We have to take into account the cost of each of these items, as well as when you're actually able to get them in a match, and the sort of risk-reward factor that comes into play here. The Golden Goose Egg is by far the easiest item to pay off, because it only costs 800 souls, but the way this item works is that you actually activate it to basically sell the item, and it starts with a sell cost of 400. So really, the down payment for this thing is only about 400 souls, and at a rate of 90 souls per minute, it only takes 4.4 minutes to pay off, and then you start getting some sweet, sweet profit. Trophy Collector is no slouch either. This item costs twice as much as the Golden Goose Egg at 1600 souls, but it generates substantially more souls per minute. So if you're at max stacks, this item will pay itself off in just 5.5 minutes, which is not bad at all. But realistically, it will take longer as you don't build up all 16 of those stacks right away. But by the time you reach the end game and you have all those 16 stacks, this item will easily pay itself off very quickly, and that's why you often see Trophy Collector generating as much as like 3,000 plus souls over the course of a match. This thing just prints money. But then we have Cultist Sacrifice. This item is a very tough one. So it costs a staggering 3,200 souls. And of course, it generates the least amount of money out of the three items at 84 souls per minute. Meaning that if we use the rate of 84 souls per minute at 15 minutes for this item, it takes about 38 minutes to pay this item off. Your match is gonna be completed by that point. Oh gosh. So definitely do not buy Cultist Sacrifice if you are looking to pay this item off and make a profit. Now, that being said, there are still many more things to look at when comparing these items. So just because Golden Goose Egg is the easiest item to pay off, and just because Trophy Collector is the best item for printing money, that doesn't mean that these two are the clear winners and that you should ignore Cultist Sacrifice completely. You see, these items also give various buffs, and some of them have penalties too, so let's talk about that. The Golden Goose Egg is very special because it gives you permanent golden statue buffs based on the amount of souls that you accrue with this item. And those buffs scale the same way as the buffs that you get from these statues, and it's important to keep that in mind because these buffs have three phases. You have the first phase of just generally weak buffs, which last until the 10-minute mark in the game, and then at 10 minutes they get an upgrade, they become stronger. But then they scale up one more time to their most powerful state at 30 minutes into the game. So if you have a Golden Goose Egg and you hold on to it for 30 whole minutes in a match, not only are you going to make a ton of souls, but you're also going to get a ton of ludicrously powerful permanent golden statue buffs. And that actually translates into even more monetary value from a certain point of view, because if you get, let's say, I don't know, 50% extra weapon damage from all those golden statue buffs, that's a monetary equivalent value to something like a point blank, which is just crazy. So this can give you some ludicrous power, but the downside, of course, is that you have a 10% damage penalty, and this is global damage. You will just be 10% weaker up until the moment that you decide to redeem this Golden Goose Egg. Trophy Collector's buffs are, well, technically they're there. This item gives you a little bit of range and a little bit of sprint speed. It's really not much. You shouldn't be buying this item for the buffs. It's really just the absurd amount of money that this prints that is the main selling point of this item. And it also comes with a downside too. You deal minus 15% weapon damage to NPCs. So if you buy Trophy Collector, conventional farming in the jungle is going to be a very bad idea because it will be much slower. And then you have Cultist Sacrifice. Now this is no slouch when it comes to the buffs either. The item passively gives you 30% weapon damage and bullet resist versus NPCs, which makes it much easier to farm. And it also gives you a lot of weapon damage, bonus health, and range, and the bonus health and weapon damage scale with boons over the course of a match. So if I max level here, by the end of a match, I can be getting an additional 40% weapon damage and 190 bonus health, which is not bad at all. But also, Cultist Sacrifice enables some characters to do what was previously unattainable for them. So if you're playing a character like Viscus, well, Viscus really sucks at killing tier 3 minions. He doesn't have very good single target DPS unless you're playing Gun Viscus, and that's so February of this year. So, Cultist Sacrifice enables him to take this minion. And in that sense, the 202 base souls that I just got from that tier 3 minion, could also be considered souls that Cultist Sacrifice is generating, because I would not have claimed those souls if I did not buy this item. And so really, it makes a little bit more money than you would originally expect just based on that 180% bonus. And of course, that 30% extra weapon damage means that I can jungle and I can take out these other weaker minions much, much faster. And so it's kind of a force multiplier that makes money in ways that don't really appear on the end scorecard under the Cultist Sacrifice label. Of course, we also have to factor in when you're able to get these items in a match, because that will really determine how effective these items are at winning you the game. So, Golden Goose Egg, you can literally get on the absolute first wave of the match and instantly start making profit. And this item will have paid itself off around the time the bridge buffs spawn, if you're really efficient, and it'll just continue to make profit from there, so that is a major advantage for the Golden Goose Egg. The Trophy Collector doesn't really make sense to get online as your very first item in the match. You can get it pretty early on lane if you're in a compy lane, but it really depends on how aggressive your lane is as far as when you want to actually buy this item. Now, you can still buy it and start stacking it up before the 10-minute mark, and you can get a lot of stacks of this item at the first earn fight, as long as you're present for that. So you can still get a pretty decent amount of souls per minute on this item by around the 15-minute mark in a game. But that is still significantly later on into the game when this item starts paying itself off and making you profit. But in most matches I've seen where you're actually able to get max stacks reasonably quickly, this item more than pays itself off, and so it's actually very well worth it even though you get it online much later than Golden Goose Egg. And then Cultist Sacrifice. Oh boy, as if it wasn't already struggling enough to pay itself off, it doesn't even make sense to get this item until 8 minutes into the match, because that's when the first tier 3 camps start spawning, and it's really not worth it to use this on anything other than a tier 3 minion. You can use it on a lane creep if you're really in a pinch and that's the next best minion, but you will be losing money compared to using it on a tier 3 minion. But also, let's say you're 10 minutes into a match, you're at around 11k worth of souls, you are only getting about 21% weapon damage, 106 bonus health, 12% ability range. The stats on this aren't super good at that point in the game, and so this item really only ramps up a little bit later in the game. Even though it is technically most efficient from a monetary perspective to get this item at around 8 minutes, sometimes you might just want to go for another upgrade, because like if I'm looking for weapon damage, right? And I'm at 11 minutes into the game, why would I buy Cultist Sacrifice when I can buy Point Blank? I mean, this just gives me so much more damage. So that is something you have to take into account when talking about Cultist Sacrifice. Hello, phone. Sorry for interrupting. So what should your strategy be with these items then? Which one is the best? Well, that is going to depend on the character and build that you're playing. So let's start with the Golden Goose Egg, as always. This item is best on characters who don't really care about fighting that much early on in the game, or if they are fighting, they're playing more of a supportive role and they don't care about damage. So think of a character like Rem or Victor. Rem is a support. He's not really a damage powerhouse, and so the 10% damage penalty doesn't hurt him as much. It won't affect his healing or his ability to buff his troopers or anything like that. And so he can buy this item super early on into the match, and he can scale this up, sell it at 10 minutes, sell it at 30 minutes, whenever he wants, and he will be able to get a bunch of buffs and a bunch of souls and stay competitive in the economy without really having to do much. He doesn't have to get kills, and he doesn't have to farm. And so this is really good on supports, but also on a character like Victor, it can be very strong, because Victor doesn't really like fighting much early either. He doesn't scale very well early game, and he usually ends up dealing more damage to himself than he does to the enemies with his aura. But of course, by around that 30-minute mark, he's finally got items online that make him a powerhouse, and then the Golden Goose Egg just turns him into a superhero. It gives him so much extra spirit power, health, damage, that it makes makes him really strong, and so this can be a viable strategy on characters like that. But if you plan on fighting a lot early, if you plan on roaming for stacks, like a Moe and Krill or a Drifter, right, then this will be absolutely terrible because they do not like that 10% damage penalty. It's going to make it harder for them to do their job of getting kills, and so that's where Trophy Collector comes in. If you're playing an early roamer character like Bebop, Moe and Krill, Calico, someone like that, who likes to run around early game, use their powerful damage, get online, and just start attacking people, then this item is for you. It is simply incredible, and I'm amazed it hasn't gotten nerfed harder than Yoshi nerfed it with that 15% weapon damage versus NPCs. Like, this item is genuinely insane. There's almost no reason not to purchase this on a character like the ones that I mentioned, and so if you're fighting a lot early, this is just the best item for you by far. And then we have Cultist Sacrifice, which is the weird one, because, you know, like I've said numerous times throughout this video, it doesn't really pay itself off. It's not a super good money-making tool, but it is still a powerful item, and it can be good on someone who likes to farm, someone who likes to split push, because of that extra weapon damage versus NPCs. This can accelerate how much you are farming, how quickly you're able to take these camps down, and that can be a very good thing on a character like a Seven or maybe a Wraith or someone like that. It's not necessarily the best option. Those characters might prefer to get a different power spike and just deal more damage that way, but this is still something that can be good if your character benefits from these buffs. But what about buying multiple of these items? Can we break the game by just getting all 3 money-making items and making more money than anyone else? Well, not exactly, because some of these items just do not synergize well with each other. Something you can do reasonably is buy Cultist Sacrifice and Trophy Collector together. They don't really harm each other that much. Cultist Sacrifice will basically just make up for that damage penalty from Trophy Collector, and you can run around killing people, right? Stacking up your Trophy Collector, and then you can quickly munch on a tier 3 minion and then get back to killing people. That doesn't really interrupt your gameplay flow, and it can make you a couple of extra bucks. Although, again, remember, Cultist Sacrifice will not pay itself off. And so usually it's a better idea, if you're going to buy Trophy Collector, to get an item that'll just give you more damage. Cultist Sacrifice doesn't give you nearly as much damage as something like a Point Blank, a Burst Fire, Berserker, or any of these other tier 3 items that offer you more damage. But then if we're talking about Golden Goose Egg, well, this item just actively harms your ability to stack up Trophy Collector stacks. Because think about it, if you have a 10% damage penalty, how are you going to kill the enemies? That's going to be 10% harder, and that's not what you want. You want to be killing as many enemies as you can with Trophy Collector, and this just gets in the way of that. Now, you could maybe do a Cultist Sacrifice Golden Goose Egg play, but you run into the same issue of Cultist Sacrifice isn't going to pay itself off, and Golden Goose Egg, in a sense, harms your ability to farm. Although on a character like Victor, he wants to farm and he also likes getting Golden Goose Egg, so, you know, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's not the worst idea in the world, but really, the main takeaway is Golden Goose Egg and Trophy Collector should never be bought on the same character unless you're doing something really wacky with, like, Rem. That's, like, the only situation where that could be viable. And buying all 3 probably isn't the best idea either, because while you will make a lot of money, you will also be delaying your power spikes. You're spending more than 4,800 souls on money-making items, and those 4,800 souls are not going to be going to items that actually help you kill the enemies or stay alive. Notice that neither Golden Goose Egg nor Trophy Collector provide that great of a benefit early on. Cultist Sacrifice provides some good buffs, but only as it ramps up throughout the match, and even then, comparatively, it's not as good in the stats department as some of these other items for pure damage or pure survivability. So as with many things, moderation is key. Buy 1 or maybe 2 of these items, and just leave it at that. And which item you decide to buy depends on the character and build that you're going for, as we talked about earlier. But if you really want to know which item I think is best, my verdict is the following. Trophy Collector is by far the strongest of these 3 items in today's current patch because of how well it's able to scale off of characters that like to fight early. And we are in a meta right now in a situation where kills are pretty easy to come by. The urn forces everybody to fight in a tight circle, and usually half the lobby ends up dead. If you're a Trophy Collector user, you are just feasting in those fights, and so this is a no-brainer to get on so many characters right now. After that, Golden Goose Egg is a pretty strong item on certain builds that don't really ramp up right away, but come online later in the match, or on support characters, of course. And then in third place we have the Cultist Sacrifice, which is weird to say because there was a time where this thing was hard meta, but due to some changes where these tier 3 minions just aren't as valuable as they used to be, and also due to the fact that Cultist Sacrifice itself has been directly nerfed over the past several months, it's just not a super savory item in most situations. It can still be a good pickup, don't get me wrong, but it is by far the most niche out of the 3 items here and the least effective at making money. But anyways, hopefully you guys found this video to be helpful. I thought it was an interesting topic, and so I wanted to make a video on it. And if you guys enjoyed, of course, make sure to drop a like and subscribe down below so you don't miss out on future videos like this from me. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.